6:00, and it is Tuesday, March 25th. We are in the council chambers of the city of Platteville, and I am hereby calling the regular meeting of the Common Council to order. We'll start with roll call.
Bob Gates.
Here.
Kathy Kopp.
Here.
Ken Killian.
Excused.
Tom Knoll.
Here.
Lynn Parrott.
Excused.
Todd Casper.
Here.
And Barbara Doss.
Here. First item on our agenda is consideration of the consent agenda. The following items may be approved on a single motion and vote due to their routine nature of previous discussion. If you want something taken off, please let me know and we can have discussion and action on that. The first item are the council minutes from March 11th, regular meeting. Payment of bills. I have appointments tonight, if I can find them. Bill Closter to the Board of Review for a 5-year term ending in 2019. And Dick Davies to the Museum Board for a partial term ending July 1, 2028. Licenses, we have 1- and 2-year operator licenses to serve and sell alcohol in your packet. Taxi drivers licenses in your packet. Temporary Class B wine license to serve wine to Main Street program. This is for the Main Street program for next Tuesday, April 1 from 4 to 7 for the Sip and Shop event at 180 East Main Street. That's in front of Hermson's Hardware. And number 4, temporary Class B license to serve fermented malt beverage and wine to the Platteville Public Library on Saturday, April 12th from 6 to 10 for their Loud at the Library event, which is held in the library. We also have permits, 3 different permits, a run walk permit for the Southwest Health for Nurses 5K on Sunday, May the 4th from 12:30 to 2:30 at Southwest Health Center. A bike permit for the Platteville Public Library for the Fall Community Bike Ride on Saturday, September 20th, with a rain date of September 27th, planning ahead, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Mountain View Park, and a street closing, Main Street from Chestnut to Water Street on Saturday, July 19th from 3 to 8. This is for the 5th annual Cruise on Main. I would take a motion by the Southwest Auto Club.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Colette will vote.
Gates.
Yes.
Kopp.
Yes.
Knoll.
Yes.
Casper.
Yes.
Doss.
Yes. And at this point, I'm going to ask Colette to come forward to the podium. You know what I have? You know, maybe she knows what I have, maybe she doesn't. So it's not easy to be a city clerk. It's not just something you just drop in on. There's training that goes along. And so Colette today received a letter after reviewing your Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association application. You have been approved to receive your Wisconsin Certified Municipal Clerk certification. By attaining this certification, you confirm your dedication to your municipality and the profession of the municipal clerk. It is an honor upon you, this designation. Your certification date is officially March 1, 2025. So we are formally recognizing you as a certified municipal clerk and congratulating you and thanking you. This is hours of training.
This is a lot of training. This is
a lot of training.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
I have asked a couple of our leaders over here to make some announcements. So I'll start with Cody.
Yes. So hello, everyone. I am here to tell you about the pasty sale for the museum. The Friends of the Museum put this on every spring and fall. This year, we are doing that again. The last day to order your pasties is April 10th. There are 7 different flavors. There is a gluten-free flavor, a veggie flavor, so there is something for everyone. And the pickup date is April 26th, and we have that set up in the Millennium Cinema parking lot. So get your orders in by April 10th and then come and pick them up on April 26th. It's a great way to support our local museum and to, just support the community in general.
And to have lunch.
And to have
dinner.
good food. Yeah.
Okay, and Ryan, I've asked you to make a couple announcements.
Yes, so I have a couple different announcements for everybody. So first one is just a reminder that Sunday, April 13th from 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. will be the annual fire department pancake breakfast fundraiser at the high school again this year. So hope to see everybody out there and let us cook breakfast for you that morning. And then the second thing I have is excited to announce our groundbreaking ceremony for the new fire facility. Will happen on April 16th at 12:15 p.m. at the site of the new location, which is 100 West Adams Street. And we're also partnering with the school district, who, following our ceremony, will be having opening the time capsule that they uncovered from Owie Gray post our ceremony. So encourage everybody to come out and enjoy hopefully a little bit of time that day. So thank you.
Good. And Kathy? Oh, okay.
Kind of taking a page out of Tom's playbook, where shedding some insight, personal insight, as a citizen of the community, not representing the city council. So as a citizen, my name is Kathy Kopp. I live at 1150 Cadillac Drive. I'm not one to weigh in on elections, but I need to express my concerns about what's happening in our community. Platteville's my hometown, and I've been volunteering in one way or another most of my adult life. Volunteers are the lifeblood of any community. Many organizations I have been associated with rely on volunteers, and all are struggling with garnering enough volunteers to make good things happen in our community. When someone in our community stands up and feels strongly that they would like to serve their community, whether it be on city council, school board, county board, service club, or a community activity, we should applaud them and do what we can to build them up. To tear people down because of the way they think is detrimental to everyone. Right now, our community has people who have stepped up to serve in the capacity of city council and school board, and they should be respected and not disrespected, especially on social media, for stepping up. That's the reason we have elections, to give people a choice. Choices are good. We don't have to align with any one individual's belief, but the way we respectfully address those issues is at the ballot box. I don't broadcast who I vote for. It's my decision, my vote. If you question why someone is running, or you want to know how they feel about different things, pick up the phone and call them. Invite them to sit down and ask them face to face to get their response and to get to know them. Many of the negative things I've seen on social media posted by many people I know are saying things that I know they would never say to people face to face. I am asking the community to please take the time to get to know these people before passing judgment. They are good people who want to make a difference, and we should respect them for that. And the other comment I want to make is to thank Colette and her staff. We did absentee voting It was flawless. It was smooth, done very, very well. So thank you very much.
Absentee in person. Or absentee in person voting. So you voted in this room.
Yes.
All right, let's go then on to the reports. The reports in your packet, the library board report. Bob.
The only thing I'd like to mention is the Loud at the Library. And that's the library's annual fundraising event. It's Saturday, April 12th from 6 to 10 at the library. And it's a lot of fun. Food will be provided by Los Amigos, dessert from the Black Smock, beer from Seven Hills North. They'll have wine, non-alcoholic beverages also, music. It is $40 in advance, $50 at the door, and tickets can be purchased either at the library or from any library foundation member. The foundation is who puts it on. And it's just a fun event. And you can do that Saturday night, get up, have pancakes the next morning at the fire station pancake thing. So please help support your local library and local businesses.
Police and Fire Commission, Kathy.
Brian said it all. Doug, I don't think there's nothing else to add.
Okay, Airport Commission. Bob.
No, nothing to add.
Community Safe Routes, Tom.
Nothing to add.
Okay, then let's move into the action portion of our agenda. The first thing on our agenda tonight is award contract 3-25 for 7th Avenue reconstruction. Howard.
Thank you. This project will reconstruct 7th Avenue from Camp to Ridge. It was chosen to coincide with the Camp Street reconstruction, plus the fact that water and sanitary sewer are in very bad shape. We have a couple of inoperable water valves. We have had multiple water main breaks, and one of the fire hydrants is inoperable. The project will narrow the street and add sidewalk on the west side of the street. It will be narrowed in such a way that the entire street and sidewalk will fit in the same footprint as the current street. The additional cost for a sidewalk is offset by savings on reduced asphalt and gravel for the street. Also, by fitting the street in the existing footprint will allow us to save some trees and maintain the same length of driveway from the house to the sidewalk as there currently is between the house and the curb. This option was suggested by a property owner as a compromise, and it appeared to be acceptable to the majority of the residents who attended the Safe Routes Committee / public information meeting on January 20th. Narrow streets calm traffic. There is little on-street parking on the street. So staff is recommending we leave parking as it is for now. If it becomes an issue, we can eliminate parking later. As far as the budget goes, the budget was 1.55 million. With after engineering, it's 1.355, and the low bid by G Pro Excavating, $1.05 million, well within the budget. Water and Sewer Commission approved their portion of the budget. So staff is recommending that we award to G Pro Excavating at the bid price as listed. We have bid tab and recommendation from Delta 3 Engineering. And if you have any questions of Dan, he's here in the audience as well.
Okay, any questions?
I had one out of curiosity. It doesn't really pertain to the bid, but will the sidewalk go all the way to the curb, kind of like on Pine Street, or will there be grass in between?
There's a terrace area. Was it 4 or 5? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yes, there will be a terrace, like Howard said, it'd be a 4-foot terrace. So there'll be the curb, 4-foot terrace, and then the 5-foot sidewalk.
Oh, so you're just taking like the 9-foot parking area away?
Correct.
That's how you,
Yep, that's how we're basically that's what we're doing. So there'll be, so initially, the intent is to leave it two-way, our parking on both sides. And there's not a lot of vehicles on the street. we kind of discussed that at our Safe Routes Committee meeting, public information meeting. And so if there does become an issue where we start seeing a lot more cars parked on the street, then we could at that time visit parking on one side only.
I'm curious, is it code that you have to have a terrace? Or can you sometimes, like on, say on Pine Street, the sidewalk goes right to the curb? There is no terrace. Can you do that in a residential area?
Yes, we've got multiple areas where we have no terrace, where the sidewalk abuts to the curb. And then we have some areas, for example, like Virgin, where it's 10, 12 feet. So it really has to do with the amount of right of way that we have. That usually controls. We try to avoid having narrow terraces, because then you have like a 1 or 2 foot area and then you can't get the grass to grow. But 4 foot, we can usually get the grass to grow, and then also give some room for some snow storage.
Thank you.
And we all know snow storage is important, particularly this year. All right, so any additional questions on contract? This, now I lost my place. Sorry about that. Contract 4-, I'm still in the wrong place. Let's get back to the right place. Contract 3-25, 7th Avenue reconstruction. If there are no other questions, I would take a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to award contract 3-25 to G Pro Excavating at the bid price of $1,051,634.25.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Bob, seconded by either Tom or Todd. You pick Colette,
TNT.
TNT, and now we'll vote.
Gates,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is contract 4-25, Pine Street. This would be lot 5, parking lot reconstruction. Howard.
Yes, thank you. This will reconstruct the parking lot along Pine Street between Bonson and 4th Streets, east of the post office. It would also reconstruct the alley to the north of the parking lot. We have 50 stalls in the parking lot, 2 for disabled parking, 25 are leased, and 23 for daily parking, and we have 1 area for bicycle parking. With this project, there will be new lighting at each end of the center rows of parking. The project includes new decorative fencing with landscaping rock, like the fencing and landscaping at the Mineral Street parking lot out behind this building. We had 2 alternate bids, one to install conduit for future fiber optic for future cameras, and the other was for a concrete bike parking pad and racks. Our intent is to have the project occur this summer to minimize the impact on renters. 14 of the stalls are rented year-round, and we will be working with these renters to find temporary stalls. There was a question regarding salvage and reuse of the existing ornamental fence. It's not recommended. The fencing that is being called out for this project is similar, but may not exactly match. We do have additional fencing beyond what's next to Pine Street called out at the ends of the center row of parking. We could choose not to install that fencing. That would save a little bit of money. And when I wrote this, I had said that it was unknown how much it would cost to attempt to remove the current fence without damaging it and reusing it. We do have a cost estimate from our contractor. He basically said it will cost the same amount of money because of the work and high risk of damage to the fence. The budget is $325,000. After engineering, we have $285,000 for construction. $50,000 comes from the downtown parking fund, and the remaining comes from TID 7. We had 6 bidders. G Pro Excavating, like the last bid, was the low bidder. Their bid with both alternates was just under 223,000 and is within the budget. So we recommend that you pass a motion to award the contract with alternates A and B to G Pro Excavating.
Okay, questions? Thank you for your update on the fence. I had that question. If there are no questions, then I would take a,
Maybe I just for clarification, when I see the cost to redo the parking lot, 300 plus 100,000, is it not possible to just refurbish that fence, sandblast it in place and paint it without removing it? That's one question. And then the second one is, I noticed that there was 50 stalls, 2 are handicapped.
Correct.
Has that historically been sufficient? I mean, it is a
Yes.
main parking area downtown. Is 2 enough?
Yes.
Yes, by code 2 is the proper number for that size of a parking lot.
But as far as use, are those 2 handicap? I mean, if we're redoing the parking lot and there's use for an additional third, now would be the time to make a third handicap.
There's those 2, plus there's one on Bonson Street proper, right by where the senior center used to be. I'm not aware of all 3 of those stalls being used simultaneously.
kind
Main
of
Street.
far from Main Street.
But not even maybe from someone that's renting the space that may need,
Yeah, we've seen people from time to time use them, but not on a consistent basis. So, and we are making, currently so with those stalls, we are going to make them fully ADA accessible. The dimensions are correct, but they're a little steep. And so we will be flattening them out a little bit to meet the requirements. And then you were asking about, so number of stalls are going to match the same. So there's no adding or subtracting. It's the exact same number of stalls before, including the lease stalls. And then you were asking about the fence. So one of the concerns about the fence is that there's 19 posts. All of the caps right now are already rusted, so we'd have to replace all the caps. One of the posts is already damaged, so we know we'd have to replace one of the posts. It will not match. To take it out, they're all pop riveted together. So they're not like bolted together. They have pop rivets. So all those would have to be drilled out. And the contractor basically said by the time we tried to do all that work, excuse me, and if they had to try to, touch something up, it would actually be more expensive. So when Howard mentioned that the price to the contract would be the same price, essentially they said that they would just not try to salvage it. They would just recycle it.
and to that point, is the new fencing, if there would be, say, a car would run into a section of it, is
Yeah.
it going to be installed that piece can be replaced?
Yes. It'll be the same fencing as that's at the inclusive playground. So the same subcontractor who did the inclusive playground fencing is going to be providing this fencing. And so it will match. And so that, just like that project over there, the sections can be taken out and replaced.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming those little bumpers will be put back so people who park there can't run into the fence.
Yes.
I don't know what are those things called? Bumpers? I don't know what. They're what? Parking blocks. Okay, well, we would like to make, yeah, very good. So reinstallation of parking blocks. Okay. Do I have any other questions on contract 4-25 Pine Street parking lot reconstruction? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move to award contract 4-25 with alternates A and B to G Pro Excavating at the bid price of $222,998.26.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Bob and a second by Todd to award contract 4-25. Colette, we will vote.
Gates,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next we have contract 6-25 sidewalk repair. Howard.
Okay, this is our annual sidewalk repair contract. In order to keep the Camp Street reconstruction on track, the city promised to replace the sidewalk curb ramps on the east side of Elm and Camp Street. This takes money away from the ability to repair additional sidewalks. We opened 2 bids. The bid tabulation is closed. Low bidder is R&T Vagley out of Monroe. They did the repair contract last year. The Camp and Elm Street repairs are $6,200, leaving approximately $23,800 for other repair work. It was not anticipated, but costs were up quite a bit over the 2024 price. And we have a list of recommended locations that will be remain for this contract and which ones we would be removing. So we recommend that you pass a motion to award to Vaguely at the bid price not to exceed $30,000.
Okay, questions on this? I have a comment too, but
For a city this size, we have, I'm assuming, miles of sidewalk. And Howard, I know you talk about this at budget time. When budget time comes up again, we need to look at that $30,000 budget. We're going to be so far behind if that's all we're doing for repairs.
and my comment is similar. We just awarded a contract for 222. We had $285,000 to award. We awarded $222,998.25, which is a savings of, I mean, we have $60,000. My question is, why aren't we reappropriating some of that money for sidewalks?
Great question. The sidewalk project is funded through tax levy because it's repairs, whereas the parking lot project is funded through, reconstruction is typically funded through borrow. In this case, it was funded through the parking lot lease program and TID 7. So it's a matter of how we're able to fund the different types of CIP.
I probably could have said the same thing for the project on 7th Avenue. There was savings there. So the question would be, why didn't we take some of that savings, particularly at least the $6,200 that are Camp and Elm Street anyway?
I think the answer is the same, that the 7th Avenue project is funded through debt, correct?
Yes. But I guess that's,
So
I think we could allocate that. I mean, why couldn't we allocate that?
you mean borrow for repair of sidewalks?
Right.
You could, it's.
I mean, if we've already borrowed it.
Well, we haven't already borrowed it. We size the borrow based on the bids that we get. But we try not to borrow for repairs that, that are regular maintenance as opposed to new construction. But it is an option. I don't think there's a law against it. It's just a matter of best practice and fiscal sustainability.
I understand what you're saying, but I also understand that, like Kathy said, $23,800. And if you look at the list of sidewalks that were presented and what we're going to do, it's kind of.
Agreed. It's definitely something that needs to be studied in light of the rest of the projects that come before us and equipment replacement at budget time.
Also,
Okay.
just have one quick question. I know prices of everything have gone up, but Howard, do you know why the sidewalk removal went up 35% just since 2024 and concrete's up 30% in 1 year?
Not really. It just,
Dan,
the way the bids were.
do you wanna?
I think Howard hit the, kind of said it. I mean, just how the bids came in. Last year, R&T Vegley was very low. They came in, did the work in a couple days, but then now this year, their prices are kind of more comparable to the second bidder from last year. So I don't know if they just kind of even things out. It's not a large project. So we don't have that economy of scale. So I mean, if you want to increase the budget to $100,000, the unit prices probably come down, but then of course that's going to be taken from somewhere else. So that's really what a lot of it comes down to. It's economy of scale, and it's not like they're doing a whole block of sidewalk. They're doing pieces here and there. So
Okay.
they're digging, moving, digging, moving, digging, moving. So
Sure, I didn't realize that was just the bid increase in percentage. I thought maybe that was a nationwide.
no, not really. Our other projects, they came in well under budget. Based upon 2024 prices, that's how we set the budgets for this year's projects. So, prices are just down from last year for whatever reason, whether it's, maybe some material prices went down, labor prices went down, profit margins went down, not sure, but, both the other two projects, when they came in so far under budget, we were shocked. And we've seen that on some other projects as well for our company. So
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, again, I'll take a motion on that contract 6-25 sidewalk repair.
I'll make a
Move to
motion.
Award contracts.
I think
Or
I
you,
think Todd beat you.
no, you can
beat
go
me
ahead.
to
That's
it.
all right.
Go ahead.
All right, move to award contract 6-25 to R&T Vogelli Excavating not to exceed $30,000.
Okay, all right, we have a motion by Todd and a second by Kathy to award contract 6-25 as presented. Colette will vote.
Gates,
Yes.
Cap,
Yes.
No,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the next is is sidewalk cafe permits for 92 East Main Street and 45 North Second Street. Joe.
Yes, so it's one applicant, two locations, so the same person owns both restaurants. Seven Hills North at 92 East Main Street, Bistro 7 at 45 North Second Street. They both like to provide additional outdoor seating on the public sidewalk, which requires a sidewalk cafe permit. For Seven Hills North, they would have 3 to 4 tables, 6 to 8 chairs. It'd be along the Main Street facade. They'd be open at 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days per week. Bistro 7 would be 2 tables, 4 to 6 chairs along Second Street. They'd be open 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. So the 92 East Main previously had a sidewalk cafe permit under a previous owner at a different restaurant, same location. This would be a new situation for the Bistro 7. Both of them would be subject to the specific standards in the ordinance that governs minimum clearance that the tables have to have from other obstructions on the sidewalk, et cetera. So those would apply if this is approved. The Plan Commission did consider it and recommended approval subject to those standards, and staff would also recommend approval subject to those standards. Any questions?
Okay, questions on sidewalk cafe permits for Bistro 7 and
7 Hills.
7 Hills.
Just a question, Joe. Are you going to promise good weather so they can do this?
I will do my best.
Okay,
Go.
thank you.
That's a question.
I just want to verify my memory. If my memory serves me correctly, the previous owner, when they had the sidewalk cafe, there was no issue.
I had never heard of any issues with those.
No, nothing. Okay. That's
So do that seems to be the question. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve a sidewalk cafe permit on the public sidewalk in front of 92 East Main Street and 45 North Second Street as proposed in the application materials and subject to the conditions of section 4.07 of the municipal code.
Second.
Okay, motion by Bob, second by Todd to approve the sidewalk cafe permits as proposed. Subject to conditions of section 4.07 of the municipal code. Colette will vote.
Yates,
Yes.
Cap,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the certified survey map for East Side Road. Again, Joe.
Yes, so this would be a certified survey map to create a new lot on East Side Road that'd be available for development. It'd be between the industry park and the hospital on the west side of East Side Road. So it would just be creating one lot. The lot would be 2.79 acres, have 303 feet of frontage on East Side Road. The CSM includes a egress easement along the south property line of this proposed lot. It would basically be intended to have a shared driveway with the land to the south. It would be 66 feet wide, so it would be wide enough to accommodate additional street construction at that location to serve the undeveloped lands further to the west. There would also be an access restriction along the remainder of this proposed lot that would prevent any additional driveway locations along that frontage. So basically the driveway would have to be at that location. The lot does meet the size frontage requirements of the subdivision ordinance and zoning ordinance. So the plan commission considered this and did recommend approval, and staff would also recommend approval. Any questions?
Questions? So Joe, you're saying that the driveway access would be on the southeast corner?
Correct.
And that they're aware that if there were a street to be constructed, that they would need to give up their 25 feet or whatever it is, and there might be curb and gutter and other things installed.
They're aware of it at this point, but they would be aware of it when this is approved.
Yes.
And I have a question as far as protocol. I am on the board for the Platteville Thrift Shop. I'm not an officer. Need to abstain from this vote. No? Okay.
I don't think you need to abstain.
I don't think you have a personal financial interest in it, so I don't think that matters.
Okay, any other questions on this certified survey map? Does it say yes, recorded with the Grant County Register of Deeds? So do I hear a motion?
Move. A motion to approve the CSM with the condition that the CSM be recorded and a copy provided to the city.
Second.
We have a motion by Tom and a second by Todd to approve the CSM for this lot with the condition that it be recorded with the Grant County Register of Deeds with a copy provided to the city. We'll vote.
Yates,
Yes.
Cap,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next we have authorization for contract awards for the fire facility. And Nicola, I guess you get to handle this.
Actually, I'm gonna hand off to Ryan.
Oh, you're gonna hand it off to Ryan. Okay.
Betcha. Okay, so the city issued a request for proposals for various construction services in preparation for the construction of the new fire facility. The facility will be constructed at the previous Owe Gray site and adjacent properties. And the old site was 155 West Lewis Street. It has now been reassigned to 100 West Adams Street. The construction work is the next step in our fire facility project. The construction project was bid out by Kramer Brothers with multiple bid sets, which will be subcontracted under them for supervision. So the RFP included the complete construction of the base project and 6 alternate features. Kramer Brothers is operating as our construction manager at risk, and they are authorized by contract to be the ones that do the bid by contract to bid on individual construction projects as long as they do not exceed 50% of the work themselves. So I don't think I put it in here, but, oh, I did at the bottom there. So we'll get to that later. Sorry. Kramers must submit construction bids in compliance with the RFPs, and they're not able to view the bids before opening, but they had the same requirements. So they turned them into the city. City staff collected the bids, and then city staff did the opening. They weren't part of that at all. The RFP and associated bid dockets were available for viewing through their program called Building Connect. So information was also posted on the city's website on how they could gather that information. And notification was also given to meet state statutes for local contractors in the newspapers. So the bids were due 1 p.m. on Tuesday, March 18th. And we had a good turnout for bids. So multiple bids were received from various contractors and for various scopes of work. So the bid tabulation document is included with the name of the company and their bid and the various bid units. Some of the bid units you'll see have no names on them because farther back there's bid units that combined multiple areas of work. So that's why some had nobody do the individual unit. They did the combination bid units. So the other thing that the bid tabulation document notes is whether or not the bidder met all requirements necessary to have the bid accepted. Unfortunately, you will see there were some bidders that did not meet those requirements, that either missed a properly completed bid form or did not include a bid bond or combination of those two. So there were 3 bidders that their bids were not read or considered due to non-compliance with the bid requirements. So the bidder highlighted in green on each of the bid units is the lowest qualified bidder. Kramer Brothers bid awards calculated to 42% of the total project, which is below their 50% limit as identified in their contract. So staff is recommending that the council authorize Kramer Brothers to award construction contracts to the lowest qualified bidders identified in the bid tabulation with the addition of alternate 2 to concrete all parking lots in lieu of asphalt. Alternate 3 to add the epoxy flooring to the additional sealed concrete floor spaces, and to accept alternate 6 to asphalt the training space in lieu of gravel. So Kramer Brothers has advised us that these 3 alternates have a net cost of $70,000, which currently is absorbed in the construction budget cost of $12,657,000. So with that, if you look at the totals of the construction parts, so the total project, that $12,657,000 is made up of, I gave you an additional sheet on your desks, which is a post-bid day cost breakdown. So the upper portion down to the point of the builder's risk insurance, where that's the city's responsibility. There's no building permit fees, but the general liability insurance, the performance and payment bonds, the construction manager fee, and then our contingency are all not part of the actual bid packages. So if you look at the total of the bids, they come up to about a little over $10 million, but the true cost of construction includes those other features as well. And then the total project is still the 14.5 because the difference between the 14.5 and the 12,657,000 is about 1.8 million, which is kind of right where we're at with the soft costs. And that's what we currently have calculated in our amount. We're within.
So Ryan, could say a little bit more about soft costs?
Sure. So soft costs would be our architect fees. It would be the property acquisition on Adams Street. It would be the abatement costs, the demolition costs of the schools. It'd be the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that go into the buildings. Any of the builder's risk insurance that we have to get. So those are all part of that soft cost fees. So like I say, as of right now, we're within our budget numbers that we need to be at. And speaking with Kramer Brothers, they've already, through some of their contractors who have bid, identified approximately $150,000 in value engineer savings that they know that will be accepted into this project as post-bid addendums as well, which then those monies will be applied to the contingency at this point. And they did in this also add an additional $50,000 allowance just to be safe in case we have unsuitable soils when they get into foundation. So they have hopes that they'll be able to use some of that contingency to add in some other value stuff as well. They'd like to put an allotment for landscaping in and some other features to incorporate in the total project. So, and then there's one note at the bottom of that sheet from Kramer Brothers is it says obviously preliminary prior to USDA formal project approvals. So as part of our requirements for our federal funding is the USDA architect just has to review the bid tabulations and the bid process and the bids to ensure that it's within what the bid documents were that we submitted and they approved. So so pending that, which we need to have the bid tabulation, we need to have basically your recommendation to award these bids to submit to them. Then we'll submit that to the USDA for approval. And then once they approve that, then Kramer Brothers will actually create the final GMP budget document that we can sign off for the completion of the project. So questions?
Yeah, it's that process. Ryan, we approve this tonight. Is that going to match the groundbreaking? That everything is,
Yeah, that won't delay us.
Okay.
We'll continue with the groundbreaking, even if there'll be some period of time anyways that'll take for. So next step would be Kramer Brothers has to create contracts with each of these subcontractors and do all that, set everything up and set the timeline. So we're going to be, construction won't obviously start till probably closer to probably sometime in May rather than starting in April. So we'll be able to get that.
so you'll be safe to do a shovel of dirt.
You betcha.
on
We'll be
April.
ready to,
Okay.
so.
Say this is long and arduous would be an understatement. That's an understatement. All right. So we're looking at any other questions? Then I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move to authorize Kramer Brothers to award construction contracts as presented to include alternates 2, 3, and 6, and to finalize construction manager agreement with a guaranteed maximum price of $12,657,000.
Second.
We have a motion by Kathy and a second by Bob to award, to authorize Kramer Brothers to move forward with construction contracts as presented. Colette will vote.
Gates,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next we have authorizing cost of a topographic survey for replacement for the property at the Aquatic Center. And there was on your desk tonight a summary. And so Bob is not here tonight. So is it, who's taking this? Is it you that's taking this?
Bob
Nicola?
is, Bob, we hope is here by Zoom. Do we have Bob? Sure. So, Bob is on vacation right now, but he has graciously agreed to try to be available, subject to technological constraints.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see
Oh,
you.
perfect.
Hear ya.
That's probably better anyway.
Okay. We didn't want to say that, but if you're on the beach,
Okay.
we don't want to know.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have the step note in front of me, but I did prepare it, and maybe Nicola, you could read it for the record. I would really appreciate that.
Sure. Okay, so On or about February 11th, the city council authorized the city manager to enter into a contract with JEO Aquatic Engineers. More particularly, the action authorized that the city manager develop and enter into a contract with JEO and associated firms for phase one schematics of a replacement aquatic center at an anticipated cost of $20,000 with authorized contingency for scope changes not to exceed $30,000. Staff now comes before council and requests that an additional authority be given to the city manager to engage Origin Design to complete a topographical survey of the real property and improvements at the aquatic center. The request is based not only on the action would expediting the process if stage 2 of the contract with JEO is acted upon, but also on the basic fact that regardless of the future of the real estate, a topographical survey is a needed step in the process. To clarify, a layman's definition of a topographic survey is a detailed mapping process that records the natural and man-made features of an area, including its elevation, contours, and other physical characteristics, to create a representation of the terrain and the improvements interior and exterior on which the improvements are located. In other words, it is a complete digital mapping of the land and buildings. This survey would allow the engineers to manipulate different layouts of the improvements currently on the property or superimpose corrections and additions to any improvements in the future. Even if the city wished to simply convert the buildings and land to something other than a swimming pool, the survey would benefit the city to save both in time and money for the conversion. So Bob, did you just want to entertain any questions, or did you have any additional comments that you would like to make?
The only additional comment is I did look at the price. I actually asked Dan from Delta 3 his opinion on the price. He thought it was fair and reasonable. The timing is important so they can get it done now. So I would ask that council approve that, authorize city manager to offer JEO to enter into and get this topo done.
And we did in our CIP allocate $200,000 for swimming, aquatic facility, whatever.
Yes, so I think it was 250,000.
Yeah.
And yes, that was assigned to a special fund for funding work towards either a new pool or removal of the vessel of the old pool.
And at this point, we've authorized $30,000 from that fund, of which 20 has been spent or is being spent on the Origin contract or on the JEO contract.
Yes.
So this money is in our budget. It's just that we would need to authorize its expenditure.
Yes, and this is coming back before the council, particularly because the action on February 11th had a not to exceed 30,000, and this actually would take it a little bit above that. So that's part of the reason why this is coming to the council.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Why the need for a topographic survey? I don't recall that type of a survey.
What?
Is it mandated, or is it something we want to do, or?
I suspect.
Yeah, I could.
I mean, when you look at it, it's flat,
Well,
I
it's
mean-
not though.
but I would
Yeah.
assume that in just general engineering, they'd be able to figure out elevations and that type of thing.
Yeah,
if
I
you're
can,
gonna-
I can help out with that question.
Thank you,
Um,
Ann.
Yeah, the topographical and site survey is necessary to locate. So what the plan is we're gonna reuse the existing bathhouse. And so we need to know where all the dimensions are between the bathhouse, the maintenance building, et cetera, as well as the existing elevations. I realize that it's flat, but in order for JEO to do their design, they need to know the exact elevations of everything. Ground, concrete, et cetera. Even though it's all gonna get taken out and put back in, but it is important information that's necessary. No different than for the fire station project. Wendell, Five Bugles, they work with JSD to do the site survey for that. So even though the same thing there, they still need to know, what's there, their tie-in points, et cetera. So.
I think that I was going to say, I believe we had a site survey for the fire station. It was just part of a different contract. So we didn't necessarily talk about it because it was part of the Wendell Five Bugles contract. So when we awarded that contract, it included that survey.
So
Yeah.
as Barb said, usually they are included in the whole, you get a design contract and that's part of it. In this situation here, Bob just wants to get going on it because, well, time is of the essence. So, and this is something that even if you didn't move forward, like you mentioned, even if you didn't move forward with the pool, it's going to be useful for a future use of that property. So it's not like you're doing this and it's just going to get shelved. It's going to be used for something else if necessary.
And is this based on basically so much elevation per foot?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, a lot of their grades are gonna be based upon, they're gonna have minimum and maximum slopes. So,
Okay,
so this will be helpful for that.
all right. Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, I'm confused about the numbers. JEOs, Bob, you might have more because I don't have any of those documents with me. Was their bid for phase one not $12,000?
I wasn't in that committee, Bob. It might be better.
No,
if you-
the bid for phase. Yeah, the bid for phase one or stage one of JEO was $20,000. And then we had not to exceed 30,000. And that's why really we're only, right now, this actually is part of, their cost in stage two. So, it actually, moves the ball along quite a bit for an additional $5,000. And thank you, Dan, for clarifying what the definition and the need for the topo.
Okay,
Okay.
additional questions. So we had authorized 30. This would ask for really an additional 5. And then if you look at it, the contract with Origin would be for 16, which is 10, and then actually it should be 6 if it's 16. But I think their bid was, there
15
there
too.
is 15 too.
Okay, so then the bids for phase two, did that not include this topographical survey?
I
Like
don't-
making it,
It won't,
Even
that,
like
well,
fire
I
sta-
think when we go to phase 2, then we'll take a look at that. Because if it was included, we're not gonna pay for it twice.
well, that's.
We're not paying for it twice.
Yes, okay, all right,
Okay.
thank you.
We'll be watching that.
All right.
We're not paying for it twice. Okay. Additional questions, or do I hear a motion?
Make a motion. I move to authorize the city manager and or assigned to engage Origin Design to complete a topographical survey of the real property and the improvements at 1155 North 4th Street in the city of Platteville, commonly known as the Platteville Aquatic Center, not to exceed $16,000. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second authorizing the engagement of Origin to complete a topographic survey. Colette will vote.
Gates,
Yes.
Cop, Noel,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, that concludes the action items on our agenda. We'll move forward then with the information and discussion items, the first of which is carryovers from the 2024 budget to the 2025 budget. And this, I believe, is Nicola.
Thank you. So each year we get to this point of the calendar where we have wrapped up most of the accounting for the prior year. And we look to see what projects were not completed the prior year and whether or not we need to carry over funds to complete those projects in this year, in the subsequent year from the budget. We also take a look at some operating line items and see if there's a reason to need those funds for something in particular in the following year. Again, perhaps some budgetary item that did not complete or did not happen in the budget year. So you can see that from the CIP fund, the total is $670,803. And from the general fund, $9,525. And there's a breakout there in your packet that shows the different projects that have some or all of their funding remaining and work that is yet to be completed. Most of those are anticipated, in fact, all of them to be completed in 2025. Is there any questions on any of those items?
I just have one on the used truck order, the aerial bucket truck. So help me understand. Did we pay for that? Did we not pay for that? It says used truck ordered, delivered 1/9/25, being repaired.
It's a
I'm
It's a
having
used bucket truck and they offered a warranty on it. And we found that there were some issues with it. So it's been back and forth to the shop a few different times for repairs, and we have not paid for it yet. So you know,
and we might not, huh? We might just send it back.
we might, but I mean, it depends on whether or not they can fix it to satisfaction.
Okay. Okay. All right, that explains that. It looked like, yeah, okay. Other questions? Did you do that? Okay. All right, if there are no other questions, then we'll move that forward to next month, our next meeting's agenda relative to action. Next item on our agenda is the resolution to terminate tax increment finance district number 5. Nicola.
Thank you. So this is really a significant event in the history of the city to get to the point where we are ready to close this TIF district. You may be familiar that TIF 5 is out where we have Walmart and Menards and the Keystone Development, and is a highly successful TIF district and now is reaching end of life. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what that means and do my best to answer any questions that you may have. So TIF District number 5 was created in 2005 under Wisconsin Statute 66.46, which allows municipalities to recover development and improvement costs from a designated area through the property taxes generated on the increased value of that property. And those taxes are generated at the combined tax rate for all 4 taxing jurisdictions. So in other words, the district is receiving the tax revenue for all 4 districts: the school district, the city, the county, and the technical college. The statutes allow the municipality to collect those tax increments until the net project cost has been fully recovered, or until 20 years after the creation date, whichever occurs first. And of course, if project costs are not recovered, the municipality is responsible for the deficit and has to cover the deficit by itself. So there is some risk involved with TIF districts. In 2013, the project plan for TIF 5 was amended to include donation of tax increment from TIF 5 to TIF 7, which was underperforming at the time. So since 2013, all of TIF 5's revenues in excess of expenditures have been donated to TIF 7. And the impact of the revenue sharing has been incorporated into TIF 7's projections and monitored to determine when it is perceived that TIF 7 will meet all of its project costs. And we have reached that point. Thus, TIF 5 can now close since TIF 7 will be able to meet all of its project costs. So in order for the TID to actually legally terminate, the council must adopt the termination resolution, which is provided by the Department of Revenue at the state. And then after that, final audit must be conducted. And any excess funds remaining in a TIF district after closure is distributed to the taxing jurisdictions based on their portion of the total tax rate. However, in this circumstance, because the excess net revenue of the TIF is shared with TIF 7, there will be no excess funds to distribute at closure. So turning back the clock, when TIF 5 was created in 2005, it included 173 acres, which were located in 2 parcels consisting of vacant and agricultural land. The base value in 2005 was $29,500. As of the end of last year, December 31st, the value has grown to $60,861,600. The value as of January 1st of this year will be reflected in the tax base in 2025. In other words, the value that's currently sitting in the TIF district will then become part of our tax base for the city as a whole. And it will benefit not only the city, but also the school district, Grant County, and the technical college. Also, closure of the TID will allow the city a one-time increase in the levy limit. For TIDs created before October 1st of 2024, when the law changed, this adjustment is calculated as 50% of the TID's final incremental value divided by the municipality's equalized value without the TID increment. Using 2024 amounts, this levy limit increase is estimated at 3.15%. In Wisconsin, the 12% rule is a statutory limitation that governs the creation and expansion of TID districts. Specifically, state law prohibits municipalities from creating new TIDs or adding territory to existing ones, if doing so would result in the total equalized value of taxable property within all TIDs to exceed 12% of the municipality's total equalized property value. So closure of TID 5, which removes that $60 million or so is from the total TIF district values, is expected to create enough capacity under the 12% rule and under 12% to enable the creation of a new TIF district if that was desired by the city and the Joint Review Board. So the budget fiscal impact of closure of the TIF is that the final value increment of the TID, which will be determined as of 1/1/2025, will be added to the tax base in 2025, and that will be utilized to calculate the city's 2026 budget and tax rates. And as I mentioned before, the 2024 equalized value of increment of TID 5 was $60,832,100. So the difference is the base value from the beginning of the life of the TID. So the recommendation to the council is to approve the resolution to terminate TIF 5.
Okay, questions?
Question, the other taxing, are they aware of this?
Of the closure of the TIF? Yes, because they all sit on the Joint Review Board, and so annually we review the life TIFs and we take a look at their financial pictures and um, estimated closure dates of the TIF.
Do they understand that there will not be a amount over the average of what we had for TIF 5?
Yeah.
Because it went into TIF 7?
Yes, I think so. That's a part of the presentation each year is as you notice here, they see the same thing that you're receiving here. And it shows that there's zero fund balance because we walk through that green line, or the green highlight is where the additional revenue is going out of TIF 5. And then in the next one, it's sort of a slightly shaded pink color that it's coming from TIF 5 into TIF 7. So I think the Joint Review Board members are familiar with how that works, and the fact that for TIF 5, that means that there is zero fund balance at the end of each year.
But each taxing jurisdiction will now have additional equalized value.
They will, yes.
So that if your value goes up, then the taxes that you pay get spread out over a greater
That's correct.
value.
Yes, so the idea would be if the tax levy from all jurisdictions combined together stayed the same, that levy is being spread over a pie, but the pie is going to get bigger. So if the levy stayed the same, then it would, the toppings or the content of the pie would get spread out and so each taxpayer would have a lower burden of that levy. Now, the reality is, costs are going up for all of the taxing jurisdictions. And so I anticipate that we will see increases in the levy, but there should still be a benefit to the taxpayer.
And that's the value of a TID.
Yeah, one other thing to point out is, as I mentioned, we have been anticipating the closure of this TIF with a very large amount of value to be added to the tax base. And so in the forward planning of the city, that has been taken into consideration by our municipal advisors as they schedule out our debt repayment. And so what they endeavor to do is to smooth out, if you will, the impact on our debt repayments on the tax rate. And so they have intentionally utilized this year of additional tax base to absorb some of that debt repayment, so that for the taxpayer, they're not seeing big ups and downs in that portion of the tax rate. So that's already, so that's another reason why the taxpayers may not see a big impact on the tax rate, because part of that's already been absorbed by the debt repayment schedules.
The development of that TIF district has not been completed. In other words, there's still properties available or land available.
Yes.
So that would increase the tax base as well.
Yes, so as those properties develop, they will add to the general tax base.
No longer in a TID.
No longer in a TID.
Right.
But actually, I should qualify that by saying, yeah, so we have a new TIF.
Right.
We created
The
TIF
overlay.
9. And so some vacant parcels would be a part of TIF 9. But I think there's some vacant parcels that are not part of TIF 9 as well. And those that were part of TIF 5 and are not part of TIF 9 would then add to the general tax base.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of weeks here to think about questions and otherwise we will move forward on our agenda at the next meeting with this resolution to terminate tax increment District 5. And in the meantime, if you have questions, please direct them to Nicola so that you can get an explanation. Okay, next on our agenda is the annual stormwater report. Howard.
Yes, thank you. We have enclosed a copy of the 2024 annual report.
as required under our permit regarding stormwater management. It has revised data for budgets, amount of salt, stormwater permits, erosion control permits, things of that nature. This report is the first one where we include use of brine on our roads this winter. This report is an annual requirement, and part of that requirement is that the governing body, yourselves, be made aware of this prior to its submission by March 31st. So there really is no action necessary. It's just informing you of this report and allowing you the opportunity to review it and ask questions. It got a little blurry in the translation. Hopefully you can expand the screen enough to be able to read it very well. Otherwise, we also have paper copies that we can provide to you.
Any questions? Otherwise, Howard, it's on page 6 of the report where you have boxed, red box, the brine. Is that,
Correct.
and does it go in with a red box around it, or was that
No,
for
no, no.
our benefit?
No, that was supposed to be for your benefit to identify that, yes, that's a change and it's brand new at the brine going on the roads this year.
Questions on the annual stormwater report, which will be filed? We won't see it back on our agenda for approval. It's a report, and we have now been made aware that it has been completed and will be filed.
Correct.
Okay. Compost site policy review.
Okay.
Howard.
Yes. Okay. Bob is here as well. He and I tag team this quite a bit. Thank you for joining us here. For a lot longer than I've been here, we've operated a compost site at 1670 Stumptown Road. It was a former solid waste dump site. The site is owned by the city, but not annexed. For most of that time, the city left the yard open, intended to be for city of Platteville residents only, but due to the open gate, anyone within driving distance used it for disposal of trees, brush, etc. We collect our yard waste in city of Platteville bags, or in the near future in degradable bags with stickers on them. We collect brush on the weeks of the first and third Mondays. The city staff and UW Platteville staff use it when doing ground maintenance. Citizens, our staff, UW Platteville staff, use the area. They collect compost, wood chips, or other desirable materials. In the past, if the amount of brush and limbs got too excessive, we would either burn it or hire somebody to chip it. Regulations on burning make it extremely difficult to allow it to be burned. In the early 2000s, the Nelson Dewey Power Plant had a boiler that could burn biomass, basically our brush. Until the plant closed, they would come here, chip and haul away the brush at no charge to the city. Once the plant closed, it was no longer an option. With the Emerald Ash Borer, over the past few years, there've been a lot more brush collected. The annual cost for chipping and hauling away our brush exceeds $25,000. While this has been open 24/7, we believe that a significant portion of the brush comes from outside the city. To reduce the dumping from outside the city and hopefully reduce taxpayer costs, we installed an electronic gate and camera system to help regulate who may use the site. Back in 2022, Director Lau was asked by then city manager Rico to come up with a plan. He sought input. We installed a gate, installed cameras for monitoring, and through most of his efforts, developed a policy that was similar to other municipal compost sites. As we said, this was an issue because few municipalities have a compost site. Almost none of them offer it free to their citizens. Those that do generally operate during normal working hours, and they generally staff the site to regulate who is allowed to use that. And again, a great many of them require a fee for dumping brush or compost. So we're relatively unique. Thus the abuse and balancing it with the desire to keep it free to our citizens. We welcome any input. These gate times were based on the goal of controlling costs. The other part is that if there's an incident that happens outside normal working hours, we would be paying overtime call-in rates. So we drafted the attached compost policy, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and to accommodate weekend use, having the site open 7 to noon on Saturday. And those who need additional accommodation may call the street superintendent ahead of time. We do have an option 2 listed. I hesitate to go through it in a lot of detail because through our vetting process, we're still trying to figure out whether or not this is even possible. So I hesitate to go through option 2 at this point. Option 3 would be to vary hours, doing something to stay later 2 or 3 nights a week, or there's options that maybe you all could have. So I'm hopeful that we can work with the gate manufacturer and installer to allow us to do option 2, but we will need some additional time to make sure that that's even a possibility. Bob, do you have anything for us?
I do not. Nothing to add.
Okay, Mr. Wells, I know you did not register to speak, but this is an agenda item that came about through your observation. And so if you have a desire to say anything, I would invite you to come to the podium. Otherwise, you're welcome to listen to our debate about this. Okay. All right. Tom, you said you had something you wanted to share.
Yes, Jody, if you would be able to put it up on the screen.
You're going to have to be by a microphone, Tom. I think Tom's been to the compost site.
Right.
Not sure what Tom was doing at the compost site, but we're soon going to see.
Well, we'll find out.
All right, so this should be on our monitors right here.
All right. I put together a slideshow presentation concerning the compost site. And if you would switch, oh, thank you, to the left. Usually I go to the right. It's my hands.
Just tell me when you want it.
Well, you can switch to the next slide. I did this so everybody would have a sense of what the compost site looks like and some of the abuse that has taken place. This is the entrance off of Stumptown Road. And if you'll switch to the next slide, this is the gate that controls the traffic going in and out. The next slide. This is the operating gate ticket or whatever you want to call it. It allows. This is As soon as you enter, these are the first two signs you see. And right as you look at those signs, that is a compost area. And as you can see, sometimes people will leave boxes and everything else there, which shouldn't be the case. Okay, then we have, it says place grass, leaves, and vegetation on the pile. This is the brush pile that is right alongside it. This is what I call stump road. These are stumps that are brought in by contractors and left here. I'm not sure exactly what the procedure is, but I don't think they really add to any value because in order to chop those up, you'd have to really cut them. You can go to the next slide. This shows some of the area that's starting at the drop off in the back of the site. This shows you some of the material that's been left there this past year and includes a construction 2x4, on which many times are found. Next slide. This kind of shows you some of the debris that's been bulldozed over, and some of that bulldozing over has been tree stumps and other things that have been left, and shows continuation of what's been dumped. Then in this photograph, you can barely see it, but there are different materials such as a bed frame and some other things that were left there. And what was interesting is I don't think they were bulldozed over. I think they were dropped off after it was bulldozed. Next slide. This you can see is a lazy boy chair, and I guess the person thought that they would be lazy and dump it in their post area. This also shows another photograph of things that have been dumped in the compost site. And this, again, is some more furniture. And then this is, of course, would be going along the other side of the outer edge, showing that basically how it's cleared and how nice it's looking. Okay.
Tom, may I quick comment?
Yeah.
Could you go back to that one slide, please? In the past few years, you can see where that brush pile is.
Mhm.
And in the fall, before we get the brush chipped up and everything, it extends almost to where the camera is. It comes a good long ways across that site. And that pile that you see now is what was left from the last set of chipping that was done, plus any of the residual that we've picked up over the winter. But there's an extensive amount of chips that are there. That pile in the photo is, well, 12 plus feet high.
Yes.
So it's an extensive pile. Thank you. Sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
thank you, Howard, for your explanation. This is some of the tree stumps that are left. Now, this tree stump is basically split in half. Let's just say our Native Americans would probably have loved this so they could make canoes, because that's how large it is. And this is some more showing of all the stumps. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the city, how they incorporate these being left off, or whether they're just left off because the contractors don't want to drop them off at other places. So we can continue. You'll just see a couple more photos of the size of these stumps are not little. I mean, some of them are 24 to 30 inches in diameter. So they're it's a hefty amount to just be brought on our property, and we have to take care of it. So I just brought up a couple of questions, and this is just what is the most effective means for the city to provide services of the compost site for Platteville residents at reasonable hours during the week without incurring additional costs to the city as a budgeted item, allowing for service contractors who are using the site for dumping their yard waste or tree stump trimming for the city residents, and what extended hours they may have to be permitted to do so. My first inkling is to say that this is a service that many people use that are city residents, but this is also a service that many people that are not city residents use. And it's not justified for them to use that service without us doing something about it, because it is our taxpayer money paying for this. I had conversations with a few people from outside the city and the town of Platteville, and I got the indication that if there is a dump site, which I do not know, I didn't investigate that, but it is not convenient for them to do so. That our dump site makes it more convenient, especially those that are on the north side of the community. The population around Platteville makes it more convenient for them to use our dump site or our compost site rather than one provided by the township. Now, that's up to the township and up to the citizens of the township on how they want to handle it. But I do not think it's our responsibility to be taking their compost and making it difficult for us in the long run in order to keep our costs down. This is something about cost and the utilization of who's willing to pay. Now, if we were willing to add a fee to those people in the township that use it, I have nothing against that. But I do not think it's very, I don't think it's very nice to be able to, just for convenience, use our compost site because they cannot either find or have one that is convenient for them to use. So that is my thinking on it. And I just wanted to present this so you had an idea of what is all involved in that compost. And so thank you very much. And you can go from there.
Okay, thank you, Tom, for our tour. Howard, I'm assuming that about the third slide, the town showed there was a black box hanging on the
Yes.
wall. I'm assuming that is the item, the controller that you are talking about that might be able to be programmed?
Yes. Like I said, we're working with the installer and the manufacturer to see whether or not the conditions that we have under option 2 are
are feasible or possible with the control system that we have. I was under the impression that it was, but we're still vetting that. So I kind of recommend that we.
Can't
that if you-
consider that as an option right now.
Not right
Here.
now, maybe in a couple of weeks here.
Just a question, I guess. Is it possible to hire a temporary summer worker that would work some of these odder hours? You know, this is one of the things I think, and I'm in total agreement with Mr. Wells. One of the things that's possibly the most enjoyable thing we can do in the city in the summer, and that is get rid of our yard waste. It doesn't cost the city anything to haul it away. We're hauling it away ourselves. Some of the stumps you talk about, I've loaded and taken home and cut up for firewood. Not the biggest ones, of course, but some sizable ones. So is there some way, again, a temporary worker, like we hire temporary other staff, a college kid? I mean, I understand it's a difficult job telling some people to turn their semi around and head it back out into the township, but I'm sure we can find the right person. Just a thought. That's it.
I agree, Todd. It seems like this should be a problem that we could at least go to an option 3 where we vary the hours. If it's not every night, that there are some nights, and whether it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Tuesday and Thursday, or whatever, I don't know what the right combination is. But it seems like option 3 in terms of varying hours should be something we should strongly consider. And I don't know what time residents actually go there. I mean, I don't know if we have cameras that tell us how many people are going in and out and what time that might be, or what's going on. Also, Howard, is it true that if I have a tree cutting service that I can now buy a permit to drop stuff there or not?
The tree cutting services have been coming to us to get a permit. They pay for a permit sticker that they put in the windshield of their vehicles, but they're only supposed to be used when they're hauling from City of Platteville residents to be able to use those.
So we haven't determined a sticker price that would, I mean, if how much will it cost me for my tree service? I want to.
Well, right now the cost is relatively nominal, but our intent here is to ratchet that up as we go, so that we're not doing sticker shock, pardon the phrase, if you will, on some of that stuff.
If I could speak to that just a little bit, Barb.
Yeah, I'm like, who's talking here? Okay. Bob,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, the permit, we do have them come in and they register their trucks. So we have an idea who's using it. And it's all, as Howard said, supposed to be local residents waste, right? So the tree services can come in and get a permit, and then they put a little sticker on their window. And the whole idea was so that we'd actually have an idea who had permission commercially to come in and use and dump at the waste site, right? And then if we suspected abuse of this, an outside contractor, right, then we could go to the PD's office and say if it's a Monday morning or whatever it was, when we suspected, the abuse happened, then they could video or look at the video and see if it was somebody without a permit, right? That would be the most important part. If they didn't have a permit, we know that they were not local. So then we should be able to identify what commercial users were abusing it. The problem that we're having a little bit with is the camera is a great idea, but you can't sit there and monitor it 24/7, right? So you got to go be just like at the inclusive playground. Only after an abuse to identify an abuse is is there enough manpower in the police PD's office to go back and look at this video, minute by minute by minute by minute to see a truck drive through or, a kid abuse the playground. So that is the challenge that we have with the camera system, or not manning it, opening the gate just for them to use it, that kind of thing. It would be nice, as Todd mentioned, to have, somebody manually there. We would have to think about logistics, is there a man hut? They can't be just sitting there in a lawn chair. So, something has to happen for that as well.
Maybe one of those fishing sheds that couldn't be used on the ice this year because there wasn't ice. All right. Well,
I have a few questions. Go ahead, Kathy, but when
Somebody-
you're done, I have
Yeah.
multiple questions.
Okay, Mr. Wells, I totally agree with your thoughts about it needs to be more open.
And we all agree.
My husband and I, before we moved, well, even after we moved, but before we moved, we had such a large yard. We went to the compost probably at least 3 times every week, cleaning up yard waste. We lived in that place for 24 years. I saw so little issues. Once in a while, yeah, you'd see somebody drop off or something like that. But it is a tremendous, by having it there, it encouraged us as property owners to keep our property up, because what are you going to do with stuff if there's no place to take it? So in the full scope of things, I know that we paid, I don't remember how much it was for a gate, electronic gate. We're talking about permits, we're talking about part-time people, not having the right hours. Is it worth $25,000? If that's what it's costing us extra because of violation, how complicated can we make this? In one respect, because it for it to be used adequately, I get it, but a lot of people, Todd, you said you go out and cut. During the summer, there's so many people out there with trailers cutting up the big logs to take home for firewood. So it kind of, part of it recycles. People are out there all the time picking up mulch. The concept works really well, but I'm wondering if we're getting too, restrictive. And I think that maybe it comes down to putting the word out there that we're going to have to get much more restrictive if people violate, if you start throwing garbage out there or something like that. But I think if by complicating this system, it could cost us $25,000 a year. And then we have this big complicated thing. Well, are they open? Are they not open? I'll take something out. Oh, I can't drop it today. It's closed. The gate's not working.
Well,
I just question the whole concept of.
I agree
we're
with
trying
you,
to do.
Kathy, on much of this, but I guess my big point is that we as a municipality have a compost site, and we're having people from outside the city use it, which is great that they can take care of their lawn. That's not the point. The point is that maybe the people in the township should be contacting and working with their town board on making sure that they have a disposable site in which it is very easy for them to use. Because I want to make this, too many times, the city has always been the one that's been giving in, has been very accommodating. And I really think that sometimes the town needs to step up. They are having an increase in population for their township. but may not always be taking that responsibility as much as the city is. And I think that's really important that the town take a look at this and say, okay, we got our residents going to Platteville to dump their waste. Now, how would it be if everybody from Platteville would go and dump waste out on the roadside in the township? What I'm saying is there is responsibility, and the responsibility for those people living in the township are to have their town board decide whether they're going to have a disposable site ready for those that live in the township, or whether the township would like to reimburse the city for those people using our compost site. But they can't have everything and then say that, it's all right for their people to dump stuff in our compost site. And we don't want to go through the cost of trying to take care of that situation. But it's not fair to our residents, our taxpayers, that we allow them to do that. Why is it that somebody can use our facilities and not have to pay a fee to use that, especially if their own municipality is not willing to provide that? That's not up to us to decide what they do with their compost, but it is up to us to decide how we control who uses that compost area.
Bob?
That's my main point.
Yep.
I agree with you, Tom, but I think changing the hours is not going to keep people from taking advantage of something that's free when it's only an additional 5-minute drive or 10-minute drive. I did have some comments and some questions. One comment, Howard and Bob, I was out there today and I think the gate's broken. It looks like it's broken. On the front, when you drive in, there's a black roller at the top, black roller at the bottom.
Okay.
The one at the top is snapped, and the gate is lifted out of the roller at the bottom. And there's only two. The end of the gate is down on top of the ground because it extends about 20 feet out past that second roller, and it's angled. So that's already snapped. Question I had on the staff notes, it said the hours were changed to control costs, and some of the costs are dealing with incidents that happen outside of regular hours that would require overtime pay to deal with. I'm curious, what type of incidents are happening at the compost site and how frequently? That require actual personnel to go out and do things.
I will investigate.
Bob?
As far as the overtime that you were talking about, Bob?
Yeah, you said you were changing the hours.
My comment, no, what I meant was if we had the gate open after the normal work hours, streets department, regulates the compost site. If they had that gate open after and there was an incident, say they got closed, or like you said, somebody ran into the gate, that's what I was referencing. The gate's open all the time now, so we don't know if there's an incident when it's happening or not. That's why we installed the gate.
Okay.
I was just referencing if we did past normal working hours and someone was called in to address an issue that would lead to overtime.
Okay, so the issue would be with the electronic gate.
Yeah, the gate or somebody getting caught in there or something happening, that's all that was meant. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question is that $10 permit per truck. Is that a $10 sticker that's good for the whole year?
Yes, that's annually.
So people who are making
it's nominal,
not thousands of dollars on a job only have to pay $10 a year to drop those things off. And if I understand, a lot of our cost is like 36, 48-inch stumps that we have to contract a chipper to come in and chip up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So really, it's not, people from town dropping off their grass and, tree branches. It's contractors dropping off huge stumps. And
That is
then,
correct.
so also, if we've spent this money on cameras, I don't see anything in the plan to use the cameras. And I'm wondering if the cameras could just be like daily, take a picture of Stump Road that Tom called it. And if there's an additional, like, I don't know, 10 big stumps, it might not be that hard to even view a camera. Like, you could speed through it and see how many semis are coming in. And because it seems like those are the main concern, those semis dropping off 36, 48, even larger stumps. So I'm wondering if there's a way to monitor the contractors more than just the citizens in Platteville who are dropping off yard stuff.
That is correct. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of a misconception. We have no problem with the citizens. There's no abuse on, overpiling by the citizens. It is the landscapers, the outside contractors so I think everybody's in agreement with that, is how do we control that? That is the issue. And when they come in with big piles of brush and stumps and they dump it. And that was the whole concept of the permit idea, is because we have 4, 5, 6 local contractors now with permits. So they have a sticker. So now if a big, pile, a contractor comes in and dumps it, we're hoping that we can easily see on the camera if they have a sticker or not. Well, if they do not have a sticker, now we know we got an issue. So that the fee part is just nominal, just to have them come in and, barely covers the cost of a sticker. That wasn't it. It was starting some kind of record keeping.
Okay, thank you.
Another idea, is it possible that we just limit the commercial dumping period, or that it's done, they get a permit per job or something like that? Just another idea.
By day.
Come in by day, strictly by day, sure, anything like that.
I mean, yeah, I think we have to look at the source of the problem, and I think it's true that our citizens dumping their yard waste is generally not the problem. And yes, there is going to be, unfortunately, Tom, an occasional person who dumps a lazy boy or a piece of steel or takes building waste out there. But that's probably not the regular. So let's try to, and it would be interesting. 2 questions. We have a permit of $10 that a commercial person has to get. If we ever found someone who didn't have a permit, what's the violation fee? And have a violation.
It's listed.
It's here, it's
In the policy under penalties.
it's 300, 500, then 1,000.
And has this been shared around with commercial contractors?
Yes, I personally called every contractor that Nick had listed for me, so that I know there was at least 15 on there that I personally called and told them the policy, emailed the policy. And like I said, most of the local contractors completely understandable and brought it in. Now, we shared it on Facebook, posting, hey, we got policies and stuff. But, obviously the abuse is I think it's from outside contractors.
Okay, so I have a question about the current policy that says it opens at 7 and closes at 3:30. Is there somebody from our staff who physically goes out and opens a gate at 7 o'clock in the morning, and someone who physically goes out and closes the gate at 3:30?
No, that part can be done electronically.
So it's like any door that we have, like at the Brodsky Center, it can be set to open and close or whatever.
Yes,
Has it been closed yet?
as far as I know, yes. I haven't been out there
I don't know
After
how it
hours.
could be closed, Bob, if you said
Well,
it's broken.
Maybe it's, I mean, it looks broken.
It hasn't been closed over the last couple of weeks. I've been out there at odd hours, when I have time to dump things.
Yeah.
I've never found it that way. Just,
Okay, so maybe our first thing is, let's see if the gate actually works. And second of all, I would like us to see until we can determine more about who might be and what kind of permitting, I would like to have us at least see days that go past 3:30.
I agree.
And if we have issues, I guess we'll learn about them. And I don't know if that should be 7 or what it should be. I mean, right now, probably 7, having 2 or 3 nights a week when it's 7 o'clock wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, there was a proposal.
Yeah, option
10 to
3
7.
was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 7, Tuesday, Thursday from 7:30 to 3.
I don't
You
know
know?
who, I do a lot of yard work. I'm never ready to take my load out at 7 o'clock.
I know.
I mean, so
Right.
if you're going to adjust it, but I also think that weekends are important.
Oh, I do too.
People that are working, that's when we're working in our yard.
Right.
Um,
Oh, I think there have to be Saturday hours, and I don't know that 7, I don't know that should be
I don't
ready
know
at
that
7 on,
a.m. on a Saturday.
is, yeah.
I would rather see that move back and go later in the afternoon so that somebody could feel like.
Yeah.
Done and get rid of it.
Right.
7?
Even if it was 5 till 5, I mean.
Right. Okay, so this is what I suggest. I suggest that everyone kind of email Bob with their suggestion of varied hours. And Bob can tabulate and see what kind of consensus there could be. We're not going to sit here tonight and say, I believe to 8:30 or I believe 7:30 or why don't we use 9:30? I mean, that's just not we'd never get anywhere. So email, if you have an opinion on this, email it to Bob Lau. We should have these varied hours, these times, and I would invite any citizen who's watching or in the audience to also send their hours. And we'll see what we can take care of. And in the meantime, Howard, let's see if the gate is actually working.
Understood.
Okay? And hopefully we can come up with something in terms of varied hours and have that done prior to people going to their yards to put waste out, which should probably be pretty soon, probably.
I think that's a good idea. I still don't see that as the solution for the contractors.
No, so
from
this is the
outside
solution
of
for our,
town.
this is help for our citizens. In the
Mhm.
meantime, we need to move forward with something more in terms of contractors.
I mean, that would probably be option 2, looking at that permit. So people would have to have a permit that could somehow be scanned or a code. So an outside contractor wouldn't have a permit or code to get in.
Right.
So unless we're using the fence and the cameras, I don't see any solution to those contractors. I mean, you can dump
No,
whenever you want.
But I mean, one
Nope.
solution was, your solution is look at a picture every day and see how much stuff
Yeah.
has been brought in.
But Howard, you said in 2 weeks you'll have an idea of number 2, how that works, how that would work.
I hope so, yes. And we'll come up with some other things, yes.
Okay. I think we've discussed compost enough. So let's move on to the update on the April 1 election and absentee ballot delivery. Now, this is not in-person absentee ballot voting. This would be people who order absentee ballots. So Colette, tell us about what's been going on. Because I think you and I have been getting phone calls, maybe others.
Sure. Yep, this update is to provide information related to the distribution of absentee ballots that are mailed out for the spring April 1st election, particularly in light of the service disruption of the United States Postal Service. The time frame between the February primary and the spring election is short. Below is a timeline of the process and the preparation time needed to mail absentee ballots to the residents. So I'll just go through this timeline. It starts February 28th. That's when the spring primary is certified. So at that time, results are sent to the county. The county then has to create the ballots, proof the ballots, get those that out to the printing firm. So then a little over a week later, that's March 10th, and that's the statutory deadline for the county to deliver ballots to the municipality. We actually are notified and need to pick those up. Once we receive the ballots, they need to be prepared to be mailed. So the preparation for every voter, instructions are printed and folded. This year, we also included a yellow reminder slip to let voters know to return their ballots to the Municipal Board of Absentee Ballot Canvassers at City Hall instead of at the polls. Sorry. The certificate envelope is prepared then by initialing the top to signify a photo ID was provided. It's color-coded to distinguish which ballot it will get. The postage is applied so that the envelope can be returned after the voter votes it. The ballots are then prepared by reviewing each to ensure there are no marks, initialed to activate the ballot, and then folded. And then the certificate envelope and the outside envelope have stickers that are applied, and it's assembled, postmarked, and ready for mail. So that was completed. On March 11th is the statutory deadline for the clerks to mail the ballots. We mailed approximately 361 absentee ballots that Deputy Clerk Frayne personally delivered to the post office by 10 a.m. In past years, a few years back, we were able to request that they kept them local. We haven't been able to do that. We were told that USPS policy was that the absentee ballots needed to be processed in the Milwaukee processing plant. So then, where am I at here? And then we also ensure, so daily, our part, what we are bound by law to do, like I said, is get it out by the 11th, but then 24 hours after we receive a request, we're continuously processing, doing the same process and getting those ballots out. We also double check at the end of Friday, since we're not here on Saturdays, to get any request, out in the mail then as well. So by the end of that first week, we started to receive calls asking if ballots had been mailed. This is not uncommon. A lot of times we'll be receiving these. What we do is we verify in the system that yes, there was a ballot mailed when that was. We let the voter know that. USPS has told us to allow for 7 days, so we relay that to the voter as well. We do advise them to return the ballot as soon as possible once they receive the ballot, again, allowing for that 7 days. And then we also let them know that there is in-person absentee voting here at City Hall, and included with that is curbside voting if needed. So on the 8th day after the mailing, which is March 19th, I contacted the local post office and I confirmed with staff there that all outgoing mail, including ballots, are sent to the Milwaukee's processing facility at 5 p.m. daily. I also that day received a call from Jeff Curry from the Representative Tranel's office inquiring about a missing ballot. I looked that up. I did the process we did, I mentioned before, made sure that it was mailed, and let him know what that process is with USPS, and that they're sending it to Milwaukee. And then again, he kind of asked about if there was a way to send the ballots out any sooner, which again, I explained, what I did above there, that really there isn't. We receive the ballots the day before we have to mail the ballots. So I then started to inquiry about this and see where they're at, what could be done. I sent an email out to all the clerks in the state I received some back or many back that had similar problems in their municipality. I made a point to ask them where they were processed through, and many of them were also processed through Milwaukee. So then I looked into contacting Milwaukee to find out if I could get more information from there. I didn't find a number, but I did find on USPS's webpage that there's an election mail webpage, and there was a place I could put a complaint as a clerk. So I did that, received a call back within about an hour from Laverne Morgan Hill, the customer relations manager from the Wisconsin state representing USPS. And she assured me that she also had been receiving calls from other clerks and that she was looking into this and that she would let me know by the next afternoon exactly what was going on. The next day, ballots remained undelivered, prompting continual calls from the residents. I spoke again to the representative over at our local post office, just asking if we could keep our ballots local. He did agree that we could do that upon request, though it wasn't their standard policy. And so then guidance was given to Deputy Clerk Frayne if we get these phone calls that we could reissue a ballot. I also had voters from out of state, one in particular from Arizona, who requested that we expedite delivery via FedEx. I reached out to the Wisconsin Election Commission for guidance on that and if that was allowable. They confirmed that overnight shipping was permissible through the post office if offered to all voters and consistently and fairly. But ballots could not be handed to third parties such as a FedEx delivery driver, and voters would have to pay the difference in cost. Later that day, Laverne Morgan Hall confirmed via email that the issue had been resolved at the Milwaukee processing plant. I requested that we meet after the election to try to find a solution moving forward so that this wouldn't happen again. And she agreed. So that date is in the works. Absentee ballots began to arrive. So on March 21st, absentee ballots began to arrive at residents' homes. That reduced our inquiry. Tracy from Morgan Hill's office confirmed the resolution after personally inspecting the Milwaukee processing facility. She provided a USPS service alert website for tracking future disruptions. She had done that because some of the out-of-state ballots we had maybe could be disrupted at their facilities, and that could be a reason. On March 24th, I received confirmation from some out-of-state voters that they received their ballots, but we still had received calls from others who did not. So I authorized Deputy Clerk Frayne to overnight at voters' expense. An update on that, he did proceed with this, but on doing that with the post office, they let us know there is not really an overnight availability. There's a 2-day priority mail. And that would be the quickest way to do that.
So I wanted people to know this because I wanted you all to know that our clerk's office did exactly what they were supposed to do to get these ballots out. And that this problem does not lie within our city hall. The problem with this lies beyond our city hall. And Colette, if I may say so, we had a similar problem with property tax bills in December. Those property tax bills were delivered to Milwaukee and set in Milwaukee. And then people started calling here and complaining that our staff weren't doing their job. I want everyone to know that our staff are doing their job and that, in fact, looking for solutions to problems that occur beyond our doors. And so thank you, Colette, thank you to Dave, and thank you basically to our residents who alerted us to this. it's very unfortunate that this is happening, and obviously not only in our municipality, but also with other clerks in the state, other municipalities in the state. Very sad situation. So,
There
Thank-
is just one reminder I want to remind the voters. If you do receive if you receive your ballot and you mail it, you have voted that ballot. So just remember that if it's too close to election to mail it back and you have another option of coming in person to vote or going to the polls, that's fine if you don't mail the ballot. If you mail the ballot, that ballot will eventually get back to the clerk's office, and that will look like you participated 2 times in the election, and that'll be investigated. So just a warning, it's not a good contingency plan to mail your ballot, track it, and then go vote. You're voting twice. You can't do that.
and any ballots that are mailed back have to be in your office
Yes.
by the end of the election day. So they have to
Correct.
be in your office by 8 PM on April 1st. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank
Any
you.
ballots received after 8 PM on election day, in this case, April 1st, would not be ballots that could be counted.
Yeah, they would not be counted, but that participation would still be noted in the system.
Participation meaning what? That they had,
I still track them. I mean, they're still going to track that you voted, that you didn't vote, but that you returned a ballot. It would be noted that it was after the election day,
okay,
but it still would track that you,
even though it wasn't the
participated.
fault of the voter.
right?
Okay,
And actually, it benefits those that have indefinitely confined, where if they don't return a ballot, then we go through the process to take them off of the absentee mailing list. So even if in a case like that, it would keep them on the mailing list.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, I asked that be aired now because I think it's important for our citizens to know that we've done what we can do to accommodate their requests. All right, I think we only have one more motion then that we need tonight.
I need to make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second. Okay, Colette?
Yeah, you.
Gates,
Whatever.
Yes.
Hop,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
motion carries.